What is up, everybody? We are live. It's a monkey and a penny live for an episode of Worker to Worker. This is episode 7, coming at you hot and fast. My name's Eric from UFCW Local 8, Safeway Albertsons in Northern California, and I'm very lucky to have brother Alex from UFCW 700 here with us today. Alex, will you introduce yourself real quick, my friend?
Hello, I am Alexander Schalk. I'm the steward of store 330 in Bloomington, Indiana from UFCW Local 700. I'm with Kroger's. And we're in the midst of some contract negotiations, and the union is not being very transparent about the terms, I guess is the bite-sized version.
Yeah, 100%. So you guys are in the middle of contract bargaining and negotiating, and in fact have just successfully turned down what the members viewed was a bad contract proposal. That's how you and I met, was through some events being put on by the Essential Workers for Democracy to try to help organize the membership of UFCW 700 around executing a no vote, if that's what the members felt was the proper response to what seemed like a really bad contract. And the reason that I was involved in that call is because as a member of UFCW Local 8 over here in California, as everybody knows, we're also bargaining, and the entire West Coast is currently bargaining. And I work for Safeway Albertsons, and Alex works for Kroger. But these mega corporations are all the same, and they're all dragging their feet, and they're all offering substandard wages, some substandard pay for us workers who deserve dignity in our jobs. I personally believe that all working people deserve that in their lives, but as a UFCW member in the grocery industry, I have the power to collectively bargain and discuss improving my life and my working conditions with my coworkers. And what we're doing here in the UFCW is, as rank and file members, we're taking that to the next level, and we're connecting across locals. Obviously, California to Indiana is a vast distance geographically, but what we found out very quickly is it doesn't matter what company we're in, it doesn't matter what local we're under. For the most of us,
I mean,
it's the
to
same.
be fair, your company is our company, but it's just a subsidiary.
I mean, it's I'm very glad that the merger did not go through. I am not a subsidiary of Kroger. I'm under Albertsons, separate banner, separate corporation, but that merger almost did pass. But the Stop the Merger campaign that was put on by UFCW Local 3000 and a bunch of locals jumped on and supported was able to raise the public pressure and stop that merger, which would have created a huge grocery monopoly that would have made it even harder for us to fight against these companies. But long story short, it doesn't really matter that they're different companies. Like they are all basically the same, and they're definitely treating us as workers the same by throwing these absolute garbage proposals on the table and really dragging their feet through the process as well. So I was really happy to meet Alex and get to talk about their exciting no vote, show a lot of solidarity with members of the West Coast. And how did it feel on your guys' side? You can't speak for everybody obviously, but for you and your coworkers who participated, how did it feel knowing that you had UFCW members across the country kind of watching you and having your back through that fight?
It was exciting, although all I have to say is I'm really sad that Essential Workers for Democracy had to be involved. I'm sad that this has to be an international fight because I wish that we had, as a local, been backing up for us. I wish that we had, as a local, telling everybody to vote no, saying everybody should present a face to reject this, and then had everybody prepared for a strike. So the bargaining committee could go into that table and say, we want $4 across the board for everybody as, starting pay, and $7 for top rate. And if you don't say yes to that right now, we're walking out and calling a strike. And the fact that we have a reform movement able to be so successful means that we're so deeply corrupt. So it's nice to have the reform movement, but how to put it? It's like if you go get really sick and you go to the doctor, you're glad there's a doctor, but
But yeah, dude, that's a really good way of putting it. It's like, okay, I'm glad that there's a specialist here that can help cure this cancer. And, basically, that for those of you that aren't familiar with the Essential Workers for Democracy, they're an organization that formed in response to a constitutional convention where basically member first proposals like first day strike pay, open bargaining, direct elections of the membership, salary caps for union officers, all of these things that if you were to ask every rank and file member, they would say, yes, absolutely, we want that in our union. Rank and file members went to try to go and institute these changes, and they were booed and voted down, and no votes from so many locals. In fact, there were only 5 UFCW locals that voted yes on these member first proposals. All the other locals voted no. And so the Essential Workers for Democracy rose up as a reform movement in response to that. And the model that they're following is the Teamsters for a Democratic Union and the United Auto Workers for Democracy. So this playbook has been written. Labor Notes is a big part of this formation of this ideology around an organizing model. Democracy is Power is a great book, Rebuilding Unions from the Bottom Up, written by Mike Parker and Martha Gruella, I believe, is a really good book that explains a lot of these things. So these aren't like radical out there ideas. The Teamsters reform took from the 70s until very recently when you guys saw Sean O'Brien take over on the international level. So actually a president before him was actually came out of TDU, so that's not correct, but their claim to fame was the Sean O'Brien presidency, which led to the UPS contract. But that reform took almost 50 years to complete. So and then the auto workers went through the reform in less time, and part of that had to do with finding some legal corruption occurring, which caused leadership to retire. But when it comes to these corrupt unions and these corrupt locals, that doesn't take a lot of effort to find laws being broken and potential bad actors doing allegedly illegal shit. So
apparently, our local executive board, all of the quote unquote vice presidents in it, most of those positions, no one ran for them. And so the current executive board just filled them up with patsies.
So our situation in our local is very similar. I've been with the company for 15 years. There's never been an election in those 15 years. In our local, if nobody runs against the incumbent, they just retain their seat. So there's never been any type of conversation. Nobody that I've talked to on the rank and file level, hundreds of members at this point, knew or knows anything about the election process. And that's what's happened. And the rank and file members that we have on the executive board, through whistleblowers that have contacted us as former staff members, we have gone through the LM2 and identified that many of those rank and file e-board members are actually relatives or have some sort of a connection to either UFCW Local 8 or the International, or retirees from both of those organizations. So whether they're spouses or family members, they're basically patsies as well. And while that might not technically be illegal or be afoul of the law in any way, shape, or form, it's definitely some corrupt mafia bullshit. And the nepotism
every single
is
local
bad over here.
Every single local holds elections every 3 years. I know that in 3 years, I'm definitely going to try and get involved. I mean, at this point, maybe I should just try and run for president, but at least try to get on an e-board. But
yeah, I mean, that's the. So just for personal journey's sake, we're coming up on almost a year. I believe it was like around July, the middle of July, when we created the Discord server for the first time, which was our we were told that there was no union hall and no place for us to collectively gather and discuss our working conditions. So we created the Discord server in response to that. It's been going for almost a year now, and the end of that rainbow is someone's going to have to run for local office, because the asking nicely isn't going to work. Asking aggressively isn't going to work. Nobody that has the power currently in their hands wants to give it up. Everybody considers these activities which are fully focused on building rank and file member strength and solidarity to create a fighting union that wins strong contracts. For some reason, that is perceived as a threat. And because of that, it's very, very difficult. I think, if in my mind, I think in the staff, the bureaucracy that is above us in the staff, and I hope there's some of you listening right now, to be quite honest with you, I think there's people in there that agree with this stuff. They just can't express it because it's detrimental to their career.
I mean, I know there's one rep who, in our organization, who seems to disagree with what's going on, and he's the only rep. That according to him, he's opposed every time he brings stuff up like this. And by the way, every single rep is part of a union. There is a union for UFCW staff. So they are all allowed to speak their mind without fear of being fired because they are in their own union.
Yeah, so is the union that represents your membership, is it called a fair? Is it fair? The union that represents the UFCW staff in your local?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
So in our local, that's what it's called. It's called fair. And one of the vice presidents in my local, John Heisey, he's actually the president of fair. So yes, you're right. They have a union that represents them, and it's themselves. They literally represent themselves and bargain with themselves in a union that is made up of themselves.
And they have their own pension fund.
Yeah. My union rep complained. He's like, I have dual union membership. I have to pay 2 union dues. And I said, can I pay you 2 union dues? You've got a 40% raise in 4 years. I want to make $130,000. I'll pay double dues.
I mean, it seems pretty fair to me.
Yeah, 100%. It's, I mean, and on the salary issue for the reps, there's a lot of complaints about that. And what I told them at the last general membership meeting is, it's not the dollar amount that we have a problem with. It feels like the dollar amount, and we say the dollar amount because it's so far away from our annual salaries. But the problem is we don't feel like we're getting the return on the investment. If, I remember the longshoremen going on strike and on the East Coast, and the longshoreman president getting up on TV and just taking bullets for the members and basically talking a bunch of shit and telling everybody he was going to shut the country down. And then all the criticism came out, and they're like, look at this dude's gold chains, look at this dude's watch, look at this dude's massive pool, he makes this much money every year. And at first I was like, yo, that's kind of corrupt. I don't really like that, the union president like flying in their F-16 and being like, yo, leave my members alone. But then I realized that everybody complaining was not a longshoreman, and they must feel that guy's got their backs and is taking care of them because they allow that to happen. And we must feel that because we're allowing it to happen. And if we don't feel that, we need to stop it. And if we can't stop it, we need to change it. And that's kind of where the reform movement leads you. So you landed there. You said, I guess I got to run for local president. Is kind of throwaway topic, but I had the pleasure of going to the Teamsters for a Democratic Union conference in Chicago last year in November, and a lot of the educational workshops were had to do with the idea of running for local office or running for local leadership. And the reason being is that's the place where you can make the changes. That's the place where you can impact change. And the Teamsters, like in the hallways and stuff, would have conversations with you and talk to you about what was going on in your local. It was really badass. It felt really good. It's a lot of what made me think this was possible was seeing the Teamsters and the pride they take in their union. But they would ask you in the hallways, like, hey, what are you going to do about it? And it's like, I don't know. I don't really... For me, like, I don't really want to run for local office. Like I was a store director for 13 years. I didn't like step down to be a receiver to take on, another full-time job as a union rep or whatever, or a local president. And they said, if it's not going to be you, who is it? And if you're not going to do it now, when's it going to get done? And that's those 2 questions I think every rank and file member kind of needs to ask themselves if they realize that they're stuck in this situation and something needs to be done. If you're not going to be the one to do it, who is? And if you're not going to
I mean,
start doing it now,
our e-board is about 12 people, and I genuinely think that when that comes around in 2 years, we need to work among ourselves to get a whole slate of people to come in, and who's not going to be patsies. And
yeah,
even if we fail in this, even if we don't get a good contract, we need to be able to come back with a whole new board and be able to fight next time. Because the one thing that this has shown us is just how bad it was. And I mean, apparently, I'm hearing from people, even from my managers and from my union, it's been the union pushing for such fast flow transparency. The company wants a more transparent process, and the union is fighting against it.
yeah, that's
The
weird.
company is backing us up more than the union is, and that to me is absurd.
Yeah, something's wrong there, and it reeks of collusion.
I plan on calling Tracy tomorrow because he needs to be talking to everybody about this, and we need to be like, I think you guys mentioned that, like, you held a meeting and 4 people showed up, and then 12 people showed up, and they brought more. Well, I want to see if we can get Tracy to hold a meeting, and because the president, at least under our contract, can hold a meeting at any time. And just see if we can get 100, 200 people to go up. Just see if we can start getting that meeting. Say, I move that we open all future bargaining committee meetings to the public, and just see what happens.
Oh yeah, that'd be crazy. So try to get him to call a special meeting, and then in that meeting pull enough people to try to put up a proposal. Is that what you're suggesting? And actually, like, are you talking about the amendment bylaw the bylaw amendment that you shared with me? Like, would you try to be putting that?
No, because that needs that for any amendment to pass, we need 10% of the vote. But I'm saying, during meetings, we can propose changes and say it's not changes to the bylaws, but we can just say we want to conduct something this way. And of course, that could be reversed. But having a group of people come in and say, we as members of this democratic group under this, say we want the procedure to be like this. This is in accordance with the bylaw. We're here to vote for it, and we're all allowed to vote under the bylaws.
Because you will have formed a quorum.
And the thing is, so they don't have anything currently about collective bargaining in the bylaws. So the fact is that we couldn't propose something that is against the bylaws. It's not like the bylaws currently say you can't tell anyone about bargaining. So they can't claim that any proposal would be against the laws. So that's not a leg they can stand on.
No, because if you're now you're now I want to make sure that we're keeping it clear in that one thing you're suggesting is that you go as a group of members and try to, because you have a quorum formed, put forward a proposal to change the way you're doing something and suggest open bargaining through the remainder of this current contract negotiation period. But the other thing that you're also speaking of is the petition supported actual amendment to the bylaws, which would put in that very specific language that you've begun working on, to add that to the bylaws. And the big point there is that there's nothing in there currently that you're cutting out or changing or canceling. This is an additive amendment in that it would be new language. It wouldn't change anything currently in place. It would add things that are not established within your bylaws, and that's extremely important because it codifies that.
In addition to my amendment codifying that, but it also means that anything that's not in the bylaws can be discussed and brought up during a general meeting as a policy proposal. So then you could just have a group of people say, we want to do things this way. And that is something that is left up to the general meetings because it's not in the bylaws. And so the fact that they don't want to put on paper their terrible process is opening them up to people fighting against it much more easily.
Yeah, and those type of behaviors within a meeting, like in our bylaws, for example, the number of members required to form a quorum is only 7. So that was
Likewise.
that was our first goal, was get 7 people there. But then we also recognized very quickly when the rank and or the staff members at the meeting were voting on motions to do things like skip the reading of the minutes, that they were also like voting members within that room too. So that's where that stacking game kind of started getting played, where it was like they for some reason they always have more people than we do. How does this keep happening? Very funny.
I mean, the union has a staff of, I mean, at least if your unit's like all union, 30, 40 people. That's
Totally.
that's not that hard to swim out. I mean, it's harder for you guys because you guys are scattered all across California.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like in reality, and this is, we can actually tell this story right now. I'll tell you, I haven't talked to you about this, but in where the meeting is 2.5 hours away from me, but there's 50 stores around it. It's very accessible to the largest majority of our union membership. It's only inaccessible to us because we're kind of out in the rural Northern California area, so we're far away. But where the headquarters is and where the general membership meetings are held, this is in Sacramento, and that area is the highest concentration of stores in our local. So that contradiction exists, and that kind of plays into what happened today. So I had my rep come in the store today, and for the third time he brought a rep from outside the area, from a city that's a couple hours away, and they keep coming in with outside reps, and they come back to me and they talk to me about what's going on with all this stuff, and they try to get information and kind of try to discourage people in the store. For example, today one of my coworkers was pulled away from us as we were talking and was told to not pay attention to what's happening because they're being brainwashed. And if they had any questions, to just call my rep directly and ask my rep to make sure they get the right information. But I asked them point blank when they were there, I said, hey, what's the point of the general membership meeting? And they said it's to talk about the stuff that we've all been working on and get the information out to the members. And I said, okay, how come the members don't go? He said, well, yeah, that's what it's a big problem. We had that problem. My rep said we used to do meetings up here, but we stopped doing them because people stopped showing up to them. I said, yeah, that's a big problem. So what is it now? Like, you guys go and then you have to get the information out to us? Yeah, basically, like, if I go so I can get all the information, this is my rep, and then I can come out and give it all to you guys. And I said, okay, well, that's obviously impossible for you to do that, right? You can't get to see all of us like individually and give us all this information like directly from the source. And he said, yeah, it's impossible, which I brought up at the general membership meeting, was that's an unfair ask of our rep that would take 100% of their time and they still wouldn't get it done. So I said, okay, then what do we do to get the information? And the other rep said, well, you call and ask the question to your rep. That's how it works. I said, okay. We did the math on that. It would take like 740 hours, and every person in our local would get 40 seconds of time with their rep if we each called individually and asked our questions individually, when we all know.
It seems my solution to that would be have a meeting and try to get every single steward to show up. At least according to our contract, if they have according to our Kroger contract, if they hold a meeting, they cannot they must make the schedule so that the stewards can attend that meeting.
Yeah, that seems like a
really good
way to do it. Hold a meeting.
Get all the stewards in. I mean, everyone who wants to show up, of course, but push all the stewards to show up.
Yeah, and then that's actually what the other rep said. He said, if I get information from those meetings, I have a steward group chat, and I put it out in the group chat. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a really good idea. So should more members be going to that meeting than currently are? And they both said, yeah, absolutely. Like, you guys should be attending. I said, okay, can you guys tell me what steps you've taken between the last meeting and the next meeting to improve member turnout at the meetings? And they were just completely stun locked, dude. They were like, They had no answer, and the reason is that they don't want us to participate in this stuff. They don't want us in that room where we have the ability to put up a proposal, because that shit has never happened in our local ever from the rank and file. That leadership's been sitting there for 50 years. Even if we got in there and tried to amend our bylaws, for us, we still need 2,400 signatures. How many signatures do you guys have to get if you were going to make a true amendment?
About 1,500. We have about 15,000 people in our local. So
cool. So it's not impossible, to be honest. Like we've talked about, you and I, we were able to casually get 300 signatures on a petition to try to put our meetings on Zoom so we can attend virtually. Which, just to that point, real quick, your proposal for open bargaining and the options that included accessibility for people like via Zoom or electronic was very, very well thought out, and like so obviously something that we need, that I bet that's the thing they would fight against the most. But it's because it gives too many people the ability to participate, and that's what they don't have the ability to control the outcome when they lose control of the limited turnout. So I love it. And I think that's what we've been fighting for. It resonated with me because we've been trying to get these meetings on Zoom because they're so hard for us to get to. So just including language that made it easy for people to participate was awesome. If we want to make an amendment, we've got to do that. We've got to get 2,400 signatures.
Oh yeah, but I'm worried about with your contract language. Can you pull it up again?
Yeah, I've got it up on the screen for people to see right now. Let me share it with you real fast here. And yeah, there it is. So you're talking about the poison pill here, Article 15. These bylaws and any subsequent amendments thereto must be filed with and approved by the international president to be effective. What a leash.
Absolutely.
Why is that there? Because it gives the international president the ability to just shut down our amendment. They can basically not sign off on our amendment, and it would just sit there forever, even if we accomplished the steps required in Article 14, the amendments to the bylaws. And our contract has stuff like this too. Remember, our contract saying here's all the stuff that's clerk work, and here's the managers it doesn't apply to in a separate section. So it makes it really hard to see, like, hey, here's this thing, but over here is this other thing that just negates it. And if you're not paying attention, it's real easy to not make that connection, you know. And let's be real. We've got the bylaws up on the screen right now. 99.9% of
that isn't ours. It's in a separate section with ours too. But yeah, these bylaws. All it says, these bylaws and these subsequent amendments thereto, which are properly adopted by the membership or are required by the international constitution, must be filed with and approved by the international president to be effective. So that does seem like they could just, even with ours, they could just screw us over.
They could just kill it, yeah, and that's garbage, dude. Like that.
But that would make it sound really bad if 1,500 people signed something. It went out for a vote, and 2/3 of people voted to approve it, and they killed it.
Yes.
Picture the sheer outrage.
Yes, and that's perfect, because that's what I wanted to mention. When you get into this situation where, and it sucks because, in our local, the language, the stuff that they're putting out in the bulletins and stuff, it is all like hyper coded to solidarity matters more than anything. Don't trust the rumors. Don't listen to the lies. Pay attention to Local 8 to get your information. The company, like reps have gone out and said that what we're doing is damaging, and it's exactly what the company wants, because the infighting is not beneficial to us winning a strong contract. Our response to that, and we'll continue to say it, is that we're not making it a fight. You are. Nobody's trying to fight. We don't want to fight. We want to participate. We want to participate and help fight against the company. You're not allowing that. That's why it feels like a fight to you. It doesn't feel like a fight to us. It feels like subjugation and exploitation, which we're used to feeling because we have a corporation that does it. You've done a really good job as local leadership hiding that from us, but now that we're paying attention, we see it. Now that we're reading this language that ties our hands behind our back and makes it impossible for us to defend ourselves, we see it. So congratulations on pulling off the shell game for as long as you have. But our rank and file members are waking up to what's going on, and we're talking to each other. And there's a lot of excitement in our Discord server right now, because this type of conversation, this idea around a amendment to your bylaws that puts open bargaining on the table, it's really exciting. And if the members of Local 700 can pull it off and get that into their contract, that unlocks it as a possibility for all of us across the country, not just in the UFCW, but in our unions. Take that language, take your bylaws, find the rules to amend, and go for it. And like Alex just said, if your international union or your local union steps in and shuts you down, that's a win. That's a radicalizing moment for members, because they can see firsthand. Let's drag this out into the light. Show people what you're doing. We want a fair voice and fair representation. You just shut us down in that. Tell the members to their faces, why you think it's not a good idea for them to be allowed in the room while you're bargaining for their livelihood and their working conditions.
It's going to be a monumental fight.
Yes, and don't, if it feels existential, but something that I have to keep reminding myself is that no matter what, this happens on our time. So even if we don't win the first battle, or we don't win the first fight, or we have setbacks along the way, what we have to make sure we never lose is this solidarity that we're building. And we have to keep building it, because there's a tipping point where there's enough of us that we can support each other when that happens and still never lose progress. Like, as an individual, we all have, like, endurance and stamina and the requirements for nourishment and leisure time and family and obligations outside of unionism. So atomizing us down to single individuals is very beneficial, not just to the corporation, also to the union that doesn't want us to participate. When you build a large group of people that are collectively taking care of each other and working in solidarity towards a common goal, you can take a break and you can take a breath, and your ideas and your goals, they don't lose a step and they don't lose a beat. And that's really exciting, because then when you come back to it, there's progress has been made, not a dead movement. So I'm happy to connect with you, bro, like a lot. I'm really happy to connect with you. And yeah, please go ahead.
I think an inspiring thought, at least for me, is it wasn't all that long ago that people who were trying to strike, or people who wanted to form a union, had Pinkerton strike breakers with billy clubs beating them, and people still went out and did it. They all went out and did it. The government had to come in and shut them down, because thugs coming in with clubs to beat them wouldn't stop them. So if we were willing to fight, and some of us die and be brutally maimed to obtain these rights, I'm not going to let some incalcitrant, uncommunicative president and some reps stop me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, the labor movement has overcome a lot and has gained a lot, and every person in this country has that fight to thank for their current standard of living. But the fight never ends, right? The enemy that they fought against is a soulless, immortal, never-ending enemy that we all have to fight against, and that's capitalism. As working people, we are always on the losing end of capitalist pursuits. So unions, if you want to exist in a capitalist society, allow you to counterbalance that pursuit of endless profit by making sure that the workers cut into the equation. Not using your unions effectively is what you're witnessing and what you've seen and what we've all kind of experienced. And unfortunately, here we are now, where we've lost the middle class entirely. We've entirely lost the plot in terms of union density being at the lowest that it's ever been. But when workers' backs are against the wall time and time again, they've shown the strength and the resolve and the solidarity to stand up and fight. And every time they have stood up and fought, they've won. So that's going to happen again. I hope nobody dies or gets maimed in the process. Nobody likes violence, and nobody likes that kind of an outcome. But it's a serious situation when you're messing with people's livelihoods and people's ability to survive. And
I have a few people who are worried about a strike, and they say, how are we going to survive with a strike? And I say, you can survive a couple of weeks with some strike pay, but can you survive for people 4 years without a pay raise? Is it not? You have to remember that you're taking a loss now, but if we can fight for achievements, hey, think about it. Is getting a 25-cent pay raise over a 4-year contract is about the same as getting $2,000 right in your pocket.
Yeah, it's
is
huge.
That not it? And that is the amount time it would take to lose that. I mean, say you earn about $500 a week. Even if we just get stuck with $250 strike pay, which isn't enough, that would mean if you had a strike for 8 weeks to get a 25-cent raise and just a 25-cent raise, you are still breaking even. And if you have the courage to strike for 8 weeks, think about how much damage that's going to do to the company. Think about the pressure they're going to be under to give you a lot more than a 25-cent raise.
And you guys are in the fight. We're gonna wrap this up right here, so we'll close it off here. A solid 30 minutes, bro. I really appreciate your time. You guys are in a right to work state, so you've got an uphill battle when it comes to unionism as it is. Like, you're working side by side with non-union members in your store. So I can totally understand the isolation and the feeling that it's an uphill battle against a mega corporation, and that that you don't have enough strength to win, which is why it's so important for you and everybody listening to know that working people everywhere are banding together and sticking together, and it doesn't take all of us. It would only take 10% of us to shut this whole country down. And you're not alone. So you are striking. Striking's scary. Being willing to strike is scary. Going on strike is scary. But if these dominoes start falling, you're in an expired contract. I'm in an expired contract. If we can hold out 1 day more than the company, we can change our lives forever. And that's what's on the table. I hope we can do it. I hope we can get it. If we don't get it this round, we'll get it the next. If we don't get it that round, we'll get it the next. Like I said, the fight never ends. But for now, we're going to wrap up this episode of Worker to Worker. This has been our 7th. It's been a great conversation with you, Alex. I appreciate your time, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, you too. Anytime. We'll have to do this again once we get some actual developments happening.
Yeah, anytime you want to talk, just hit me up. And if you've got coworkers, and if anybody listening is interested in having these kinds of conversations and want to share their experience in their local, just reach out. All the episodes that you've heard so far have been exactly that. Just working people, getting connected, networking, finding each other online, and deciding to have these conversations. So I hope to keep them going. We'll keep doing them in the future. We'll wrap it up for now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your coworkers, spread the word. We are rising, we are coming, and good contracts follow behind. Solidarity and peace.